Welcome back. Episode 44, Run Fast Podcast. Here we go again. Solo this week. Haven't spoke to Chris for a bit. Might try and get hold of him this week. He's just been busy like the rest of us. But I just want to get a quick podcast in and talk about something funny I saw on the weekend. Often jump on YouTube on the weekends and flick through a few videos and see if there's anything interesting to catch up on. And I stumbled across some good track videos on the weekend where some of the phenomenal performances happening around the world at the moment in track and field. We've got the Diamond League happening through Europe, and obviously there's a lot of college competitions happening as we move into the warmer weather in the US as well. I think there was even some big meets in the Bahamas. But yeah, some kid ran 1975 in the 200, phenomenal time. I think he's only 20. And then three girls went sub 50 in the same race in the 400 at college. Actually, I think four girls went sub 50 in the 400, but three of them were from the same university. And I think that basically happens quite often when you get dragged along, like a track's like, obviously, as well. You've got a really good running squad and other people want to join because the athletes are so good. We went through this for many years at our squad and ended up with a extremely good masters running squad because like does a track like. And I also think then other athletes that can't quite keep up fall away and go somewhere else. So twofold effect then. But yeah, phenomenal to see three young girls in the 400 all go sub 50. You know, if you look back some time, you would only ever see one athlete in the 400 final at a very high level, probably the Olympics or world champs, that would actually go sub 50 seconds. Now we've got four girls at a collegiate meet going under 50 seconds. But yeah, so whilst I was flicking through YouTube, I stumbled across a video on a couple of guys, and I can't even recall the name of the video, and even if I did, I wouldn't use the name, but they were bigger athletes. When I say bigger athletes, you know, they were CrossFitters or bodybuilders or something. One of them was a track coach, and he, you know, definitely knew some of his stuff, but they decided to run some 200s, and this particular guy states that he hasn't actually put a set of track spikes on for 8 years, but the guy that was taking him through the session laid out the session for him and said, okay, we're going to run a flat out 100% flat out, and then post that first 200, we're then going to proceed to run 8 200s with a jog back recovery. But I want your first 200 flat out so I can actually establish what time you're going to run and then use that time as a basis for the rest of them. So I'm looking at this guy, big athlete, very heavily muscled. I forget what he said his body weight was, over 200 pounds, 205 or something. That he's going to warm up and then he's going to run a absolutely flat out 200. Even as a track runner for many, many, many years, I would very rarely have my athletes run a flat out 200. And I would never do this to an athlete that, one, hasn't run for a while, two, hasn't put a set of spikes on for a while, never mind 8 years, and three, if my athlete had had some sort of even small layoff, you would never have them run a 200 meters at 100%. And I go back to social all the time. It's one of the things I just do not like about social media. We've just got so much misinformation being put out there, and you know, someone's probably gone off to the track today to try to run a flat out 200, and then get laid in a base time so they can actually work out the rest of the other 200s they're basically trying to run. And even then, for a guy that big to then go and run another 8 200s, I didn't watch the whole video. I was getting frustrated. I don't know if my personal opinion was, as soon as I saw this and the task they'd laid down, he'll never get through 8 200s with a jog back recovery. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. If he did, good on him. He's hats off. But anyway, just a word of warning, you don't need to go out and run a 100% 200 to, you know, work out your base time. And if you haven't run any sort of flat out work for a very long time and haven't put track spikes on, first of all, if you put a set of track spikes on, your calves are going to blow to pieces running flat out over that distance. Let me tell you that half a lap at 100% is very, very difficult to do for anybody. It's a long way. It's a long way to be exerting that force into the ground through your body if you're not used to it. I've just started running some hills again with some buddies on the weekend, and they're clearly not 100%. We're probably running 90, 92% of speed up this hill, and we're doing 6 hills with breaks in between. And the first week that I went back and ran hills, I couldn't walk for 4 days. Literally 4 days. My quads, my hamstrings, everything was just sore for 4 days. And already I've started to develop a bit of an Achilles problem again because of being up on the balls of your feet and aggressively pushing into that road. Yes, I know people out there are going to be saying Achilles heels will do that to your Achilles. You are leaning forward, you're putting your body on more of a stretch. I get all of that. But I just wanted to emphasize that you don't need to be, if you want to start doing some sprint training, I'd recommend, and these guys did a great job of a warm-up. They went through lots of drills, which I highly commend and recommend. Go and get a track coach for a little bit and understand drills. I think it's a really great thing to learn from anyone's perspective, any runner, distance, sprints, anyone getting into running, just to understand the basics of running, to learn to do those simple drills. And any good sprinter will tell you it's the first thing you learn when you're very young. I was fortunate enough, I had a fantastic coach when I was 12 or 13, and all we did was drill. Lots and lots of drills. So this gets ingrained into your mechanics, and your mechanical running just becomes better over time, and you just tend to hold that for life. So my first recommendation would be, if you want to get into running, even as a distance runner, go and get a coach that can actually teach you those basic drills. And secondly, if you want to do some speed work, couldn't agree more. Love speed work, and I think doing track work is fantastic. We all know that distance runners, to improve your speed, you're probably running 400s, 800s, 1Ks, 1.5Ks, 1 mile repeats as your interval runs. I love it. I still do it myself. I've got back into distance running. As some of you may know, if you're following me along, I talk about sometimes in the podcast. I do my 400 meter interval sessions and my 800 meter interval sessions. I absolutely love them. But to go out and run 100% and then try and run an additional 8 200s with a jog back recovery for an athlete that big. First of all, yes, I get you need to understand a percentage of what these athletes are going to run at. I probably wouldn't start anybody off on 200s. I'd always start them off on 100s. And one of the best sessions you can do, which is challenging, by the way, is running 100s on the minute. So you run 100, whatever your time is, you've got that left over as a rest, and then you go on the minute. So if you run a 15-second 100, at the other end, you're waiting 45 seconds, and then you're turning around and coming back. Now, just find a comfortable pace that you can actually hold, that feels comfortable to you. It's not 100%, and just see if you can hold that pace. If you can only run 3 or 4 of these 100s off the minute, then great. Then start having, a slightly longer rest to get a few extra reps under your belt. Then have 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever it is. But, gradually building up to all these things is the key. I understand you can go into the gym and someone might get you to do a 1 rep max, but it's not an explosive exercise like trying to run 100%. Different if you're going into the gym and, I don't know, it's nothing that you can really replicate. I mean, a 1 rep max squat, if you have a lot of strength and no technique, you're probably going to end up injured. Same with the deadlift, if you have a lot of strength and don't have the technique. But sprinting over that distance, it's not like a 1-step max. It's a 200 rep max. I just think it's something that we need to be careful of. Anyway, my bit of a rant for the day, just stuff that I come across on the socials and on YouTube. I love it as a platform. I love this dissemination of information we can get out there. I learn so much from people online. I follow some amazing people on Twitter at the moment. As I get back into my journey of running a little bit more distance, there's incredible information out there. But just be careful of some of these people, some of the stuff they're doing, and particularly when it comes around absolute super fast work. It'd be like somebody telling you to, I'm just starting to get back into distance running. You should go out and run 20Ks today. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to rant too much today. The other thing I've been thinking about as well, just as a bit of a side note, is understanding a little bit about anatomy and physiology as an athlete and a coach. I understand most coaches will understand anatomy and physiology. Not all, some more than others. Obviously, if you're not don't have a science degree, as I don't, and I'm more of a learn as I go coach. I have a 30-year running career in track. I sort of just learned, from great coaches along the way. And then I've done multiple coaching courses and, strength conditioning and whatever else along the way. So you do learn about anatomy and physiology in those courses. But I also took it upon myself to read a lot and understand a lot myself. I used to sit down and just read anatomy books, particularly the basics, just the basic fundamentals. You don't have to know every muscle in the body and how it interconnects. And its absolute role, and it's all the movements it does on that particular bone or joint. But I think having some basic anatomy is beneficial, particularly as an athlete. If you've got some sort of injury and you go off to your sports physical therapist, being able to have a conversation with that particular person and have a level of understanding of what they're explaining to you, I think goes a long way. It makes your rehabilitation so much easier, and having that knowledge, and when he starts talking to you, to say, okay, yep, I fully understand that. I know that he's talking about, this particular hamstring muscle, or, my the components of the calf, the gastroc and the soleus and so forth. So just having some level of understanding, I think is beneficial, particularly as a coach. I would often be helping athletes, and as a coach, you're often, diagnosing at the track. If someone's got an injury on the day, you kind of want to know how bad it is, or if they're struggling a little bit. I would often be releasing hamstrings at the track and quads, and guys would turn up. And funny enough, funny story, that one of the athletes I coached, he was so powerful, when he'd often get in the blocks, we would call it a popped rib, but his ribs would actually shift and get jammed, and he would actually have then breathing issue. And he's like, God, I've just popped a rib just doing that aggressive block start. You throw your arm so aggressively as a sprinter, his rotation, he would actually create this rib jamming effect. And I'd often have him just laying on his stomach and, pushing on his rib and his back to try and free that rib up so he could actually run again. And if you've got that simple understanding and knowledge, then you can actually do these types of things. So I encourage everybody just to have, that if you want to run or you're involved in sport or coaching, to have some sort of basic level there. So anyway, that's it for my bit of a rant for today. Just some funny things I saw on YouTube in the weekend. But some very good collegiate runners around at the moment, and some phenomenal times being laid down. I think it's going to be a great season if you do follow the track and field. Yeah, that's it for now. Have a great week. Enjoy your running, and until next time, bye for now.